Counsel for former Chief Sloly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Tom Curry for former Chief Sloly. As you emphasized in your comments opening these proceedings, these hearings concern accountability of the federal government and examine why the emergency was declared, how the power was used, and whether the government's actions were appropriate. The ancillary matters under review, including the efforts of police, are examined, as you indicated, only to the extent relevant to that mandate. This is important because it requires the Commission to focus on the acts and decisions of the federal government. Although it provides relevant context, this is not an inquiry into the operation of the Ottawa Police Service, the City of Ottawa, or the performance of Chief Sloly. As you also noted at the outset, this public inquiry is unique, since the time available for you to complete your mandate is very short. To accomplish that task, procedural rules were adopted that imposed limits on the ability of the parties withstanding to elicit evidence or challenge evidence introduced by Commission counsel. Those procedural limitations were designed to protect the Commission's ability to complete its mandate, and you have shown they've worked. But no party or participant should be the subject of an adverse misconduct finding in the context of a Commission that has had to complete its mandate by imposing procedural rules to address the limited time frame in which you've had to operate. Chief Sloly is recognized by all as a national police leader who brought nearly 30 years of experience to Ottawa as its first Black police chief. He has a long record of success at the City of Toronto Police Service and internationally in virtually every role played in policing. His actions and his decisions and his recommendations for the future carry the weight of that accumulated experience and wisdom. The convoy protests that arrived in Ottawa in January 2022 represent an unprecedented and unpredictable paradigm shift in public protest. Even with the benefit of hindsight, it is not possible to find that police services and intelligence agencies should have known this would become an extended occupation. Recall indeed that most protesters left after the first weekend. But as the protests settled in to become an occupation, the Ottawa Police Service's plans that always contemplated some protesters would stay past the first weekend were required to evolve to address the new situation. There is also agreement that the OPS lacked the resources to resolve the occupation itself. Chief Sloly raised the lack of resources in a responsible way throughout these events, and his statement that there may not be a policing solution from the Ottawa Police Service alone was correct. He was also right to consider the role of negotiation and dialogue and whether an interlocutor could assist. Of course, the declarations of emergency by 3 levels of government were also not a policing solution, and he was right to call attention to the role of government to address this challenge. Agreement across the parties is also made that the events created a crucible of enormous pressure for everyone involved. All described the pressure they experienced during the protest. This point is important to your work because as you assess the facts and the roles played by individuals in these events, you should exercise restraint in judging those people, including Chief Sloly, who are operating under extremely challenging circumstances. The parties agree also that the police response in Ottawa, Windsor, Coutts, and elsewhere was a success, as has been noted by others, in the sense that the protests were brought to a conclusion without a loss of life or serious injury. The City of Ottawa, the OPS, and Chief Sloly occupied a prominent position in these proceedings. Commission Counsel's presentation of the evidence focused more on that part of the events than other parts. More members of the OPS testified and for longer than members of the other police services. Chief Sloly himself was in the witness box twice as long as any other witness in the proceeding. This intense scrutiny of Chief Sloly's role during the 3 weeks under review establishes, though, that he performed his duties in good faith to the best of his abilities, and that he dedicated himself to the passionate defense of the City of Ottawa, its residents, the membership of the OPS, the right of lawful protest, and the safe and responsible end of the illegal occupation. He exercised his authority under extremely difficult circumstances. His police service was operating without a full permanent senior command, was struggling to recover from the challenges of the global pandemic, and of course adjusting to a new chief from outside its service, implementing a change mandate. The unprecedented events of the convoy protests meant that the OPS, Police Services Board, City Council, city officials, and agencies were required to work together in imperfect conditions. Chief Sloly did everything in his authority to get the help he needed to help this community and the service he swore to protect. Unfortunately, he and the OPS were unable to get the help they needed when they needed it. And you've heard about the reasons for those delays, from debates about who should be the first port of call to delays caused by inaccurate public statements about how many police service members were available to the OPS. Those circumstances created confusion and doubt and an unjustified lack of confidence in Chief Sloly and the OPS. Chief Sloly and the OPS were in an impossible position to dismantle an unprecedented occupation, but not with the resources they needed to do so. He had the weight of the city and the nation on his shoulders. Criticism of the absence of a plan must be seen in the context of the reality that there were always plans for maintaining the safety of the community, but plans for the dismantling of the occupation obviously required resources. And a plan most assuredly was complete, as you've heard, February 12th and February 13th, and services were delivered against that plan from the RCMP and the OPP. Chief Sloly served to the best of his ability under trying circumstances inside and outside the OPS, but it was not enough. Confidence in the OPS and its chief was harmed by the weight of the rumors and resourcing delays and the scale of the problem. And so he did the last thing he could do to ensure public safety was not compromised. On February 15th, he resigned from his position to remove himself from the equation. I say that's an act of a selfless leader who put the community and his service before himself and his family. His public service continues in this hearing. He has participated fully in these proceedings, including by offering his account of the circumstances and his recommendations to you for future reform to address structural deficits and improve the sharing of intelligence and responses to events of this kind in the future. And Commissioner, he looks forward to assisting you in the policy phase. On Chief Sloly's behalf and on behalf of my colleagues, thank you for your work in this commission.
Thank you.